Hey guys, welcome to this video. This video is going to be labeled as video number two. Uh, what I'm going to cover in this video is I'm going to create some kind of software, right? Because in order for us to apply the different kinds of techniques and principles and tools that we learn, we need to have some kind of software. Now you can either choose to write this software together with me, or you can download the code from GitHub, right? I will post all the links in ITHS distance. So in this video, I'm shortly going to show you guys how to create a very easy web app, a website rather, with Flask and Python, and then we're going to see what we can do with that, right? So the main focus of this course again is not the code or not a tool separate. It's how we combine all of this and apply DevOps uh, to basically every group or project that we join. So, in order to follow along in this video, you need a couple of tools. And the tools, well, you can read more or learn more about them in the previous section. But all the tools that we're going to use, there is video material linked to it at ITOS Distance. So the tools you're going to need for this tutorial, let's say, is first of all you're going to need Python installed on your on your computer. You're going to need to have Git and a GitHub account if you want to follow along with the source control thingamajiggy. Then we're going to use Docker. So you need to have Docker installed, and then we're going to use Visual Studio Code. And that's basically all the tools we are all the tools we're going to use for this tutorial. But it's not just for this tutorial, right? It's kind of setting up our workspace. So in order for us to start, we're gonna fire up Visual Studio Code. I am going to use two different code editors throughout this course. One is Visual Studio Code for Python and maybe APIs, and I don't know what else we're going to do in this course, but basically everything is that's not C# related and .NET related, I will use Visual Studio Code for. Please fire up Visual Studio Code and let's create a new folder so that we can start working. So I'm going to go here, open folder, and then let's say we want to save it. Let's put it um, on the desktop. Create a new folder. Let's call it my website or something. Yeah, my website is a very beautiful name. Boom. First things first, in order for us to write any kind of code, we need some kind of file, and since we're going to do this in Python, we're going to create a new file. We're going to call it app.py, like so. So now we have our file where we can write code, but before we do any code, we're going to set up our workspace. So if you click F1, uh, F1 or Control Shift P, you're gonna get this command line. And what you can do in this command line is you can search for different kind of commands, right? And what we want to do is we want to Dockerify our application. So we want to add Docker files to our workspace. And if you type Docker, then you're gonna get all kind of suggestions, right? Uh, that that you could use. And the one we want to do is add the Docker work file to the workspace. And if it doesn't show up for you, that might be because I've downloaded an extension for Docker. So with Visual Studio, you can kind of enhance the Visual Studio experience with different kind of extensions. So if you want this Docker extension, which you are going to need, I think, you should go to extension, this tab over here. You should write Docker here and then install this one, right? And also, what you could do is you could install the Azure extension because we're going to use it a bit later in this course. Anyways, so we're gonna add a Docker file or yeah, a Docker file to our workspace, and we can do that by pressing F1 and then add Docker files to workspace. You press that, you're gonna get prompted with some questions, right? And then you just try to apply the correct answer. So what kind of application are we doing? Yeah, well, we're doing a Python Flask application, so we're going to press that. And which one is your entry point? Well, it's going to be app.py. What port do we want to expose? 5000 is 5002 is fine. Let's not use a Docker Compose for now to not increase complexity. Now, what Visual Studio has done, it has generated a Docker file that's more or less ready to use, depending on what kind of projects we need. And it also realized that we're gonna need some kind of packages to run this application, and those are actually Flask and gunicorn, right? So this command, add Docker files to workspace, actually helps with quite a lot, but we're not done yet. So what we want to do, because the problem with Docker is every time we start a container, whenever we do a new change to our code, we have to restart the container. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of make reloading on the fly. And in order to do that, you go to this folder over here that Docker created called vs.vs code, and you go task.json. And here we need to add a couple of things. So the first thing we want to do is we want to come under this flask.app under environment. We're going to do a comment, and then we want to add flask flask underscore environment. And then we're gonna go here and we're gonna add development. This will tell Flask to restart its web servers every time a change has been made. And in order for this to work, we also need to add a volumes section, and we're going to do this under this environment over here. So do a comma, and then let's do volumes, and this volume should contain. We're going to do two different variable. We're going to do container path. That's the first one, and we're going to say dash app, and then we're going to go down here and we're going to say local path, and this is going to be our workspace folder. So we can do like this and say workspace folder. There's another little thing we need to do for this to work, because we do want the debugger and we do want to have reload. So let's remove these two lines, and that should be pretty much that when it comes to setting up Docker. Okay, now we can actually start creating our Flask implementation. So if we go to app.py and write from Flask, we want to import Flask, and then up, and then we're gonna do one root for now. And we're gonna do this. So this is kind of I don't know, a boilerplate Flask application. If you want to learn more about Flask and potential, you can check the video that's in week 1. We will of course use it a bit more in depth, but this is actually enough for us to start our application and see that it works. And in order for that, well, you need to have Docker started on your desktop, so you need to start Docker desktop, and then you can just press F5 and your application should be running. and we're gonna pop it over here. And now we can see that we actually do have a server up and running that says hello world. Amazing, right? But I wouldn't classify this as software, and we cannot really do much with this. So let's start implementing some actual code to play around with. Okay, so now that everything is running, let's create a decent or a somewhat good-looking website so that we can have something to play around with later on. And well, the way Flask works is that we don't have to close it actually. Now we can just close it because my computer is kind of kind of shit. So what we want to do is we want to create a new folder, and we want to call this folder templates. Within this templates folder, we want to create a new file, and let's call this index.html, right? So we can either code this by ourselves or be super duper lazy. And for this tutorial, I'm going to choose the super duper lazy path. I'm going to use ChatGPT to code us, I don't know, something that we could work with, right? So let's ask ChatGPT to create us a simple profile page. Uh, Help me create a simple profile page using HTML and Bootstrap. Let's add Bootstrap to make it look better. And I'm gonna provide you guys with some link so that you can understand what Bootstrap is. But it's kind of a front-end framework that makes designing stuff a little bit easier, I would say. So let's see what ChatGPT comes up with. ChatGPT is finished, and this is what it generated. So basically, it created one HTML file, and it boiled it down to three pieces. Yeah, feel free to read it, but my hope is that you already have an understanding of what HTML is, so that we don't have to spend time on this in these videos explaining all these tools that we're going to use. So that's the first part, and then we had a second part, which is the body part, and we're gonna add the body part, and then we had one third part that was the scripts and the closing body part. So there we go. Now we have index.html, an index file, and this again, this is going to be our a profile page. Hopefully, that's what we asked ChatGPT to create, and it kind of looks like it's going to be somewhat decent. So when we created this index.html file, what we want to do is we want to go back to our app.py, and instead of returning hello world, a simple string, when somebody visits the website, we want to actually render this index.html. And in order for us to do that, we have to import one more thing from Flask. So we need to do get render template. And instead of returning hello world like we're doing here, we want to return render template, and then we want to say which template, and it's going to be index.html. Let's see this in action. There we go. A simple website. John Doe, web developer with 5 years of experience, whatever. So it basically created simple software, and now you guys can feel free to play around with this code and create something more advanced if you want to. I will upload this code to GitHub, so if you want the exact same code base, you could find it over there. But that concludes this little video of how to create some kind of software using Python and Flask. So before I end the video, I also want to show you guys how you can upload from GitHub from Visual Studio to your GitHub account, because you can do it in a couple of different ways, and I just want to show you guys how to do it in Visual Studio Code, since again, there's many ways to do it. So let's head over to Visual Studio Code, and let's stop the application for now. So there's many different ways to get started with Git and GitHub, and we're gonna use different videos to go through the different types. So in this video, I'm gonna do the one I think is the most common one or the basic one people are actually using. So we're gonna start by going to github.com, right? And hopefully you guys already have a GitHub page. If you don't, maybe I should also add a video with GitHub, but I think I actually did. So hopefully everybody has a GitHub page. This is kind of where you show off as a developer. If not, do get a GitHub page. You don't necessarily need it, but it would be helpful for you, I think, and there is no downside with having a GitHub account. Anyways, you go to your repositories. From here, you can press New, and then you give your repository a name. And let's create this my Python website. No description. We're gonna make it public so that you guys can add it. We're just gonna press Create Repository. And then from here, we have this command over here. We can copy paste this, and we can go back to Visual Studio, and we can go to Terminal, like here. I'm gonna close this one. I'm gonna close, we need a new one. Perfect. Git status. Oh, okay, so we need to add our command, like so. There we go. So now we're connected to Git and our repository, and we can actually double check this by going back to our page and just refresh. And now it should be different, right? So now we need to add all these new changes to GitHub, because all the changes we made, everything I just created, it doesn't exist on GitHub right now. It doesn't exist on the cloud. It just exists on my local computer. And in order for me to push it to the cloud, there's different kinds of way we can do. And why I want you guys to know this is because this is one of the parts we are going to automate later on during this course. So, what the simplest way to manage the versions and GitHub in Visual Studio Code is by pressing this icon over here, source control. So the first thing is we need to stage our changes. So all of this are the changes that we have made to this project. These these files over here, these changes over here, they don't exist in the cloud. So the first thing is we need to stage them. And we do that by pressing the plus here, 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 or pressing the plus here. Now we say we want to take all these changes, and these are the things we want to push to the cloud. All right. Then we need to add a message. What message? Well, what did we just do? Well, we initialized a website project, maybe. What did this push do? Kind of describe it, right? And then you have to commit it all. So basically, when you press commit, this and this packages, and then it's ready to be pushed, right? So now you created a commit. This commit is still local on our computer. What we need to do now is we need to push it to GitHub by pressing push. There we go. And now if we go to GitHub and refresh the page, then now all the files should be here. So now you guys should have access to all the files in order to follow along with this tutorial. If you don't want to follow along with the tutorial and just want the code to further participate in this course, you can download all the code I just wrote by pressing this button and just download the zip, unextract zip. And if you guys have had any problem with that, you can ask me anytime at on Discord or on email or whatever. Anyways, that now concluded this video about creating a simple software. Thank you guys.